React is a JavaScript library, not framework, that's used to easily build and arrange user interfaces for web applications. React focuses on building a web application using these things called components. A component is a self-contained section of code that functions as a reusable building block. Think of Legos. You could say a Lego is similar to a React component. Each Lego represents a section of reusable JavaScript and HTML code. We can build a diorama or other complicated structure from these Legos if we use enough of them and in the correct places. React uses a syntax extension of JavaScript known as JSX, meaning JavaScript XML. JSX allows you to write HTML-like code within your JavaScript files. React also utilizes a virtual DOM. It's a lightweight version of the real DOM of a web page. We can keep track of any changes made to the virtual DOM and only apply that specific change to the real DOM without needing to refresh the entire web page, only that specific section. This reduces rendering performance overhead. Before we do begin, you will need to know JavaScript since React is a JavaScript library. Everything up to arrays, classes, objects, and ES6 features such as arrow functions will be necessary. HTML will also be mandatory since our React components involve rendering HTML elements and applying CSS. So that's a quick overview of React. We'll move on to the installation instructions next. We're going to download Node.js from this URL, nodejs.org. Node.js is a back-end JavaScript runtime environment. It executes JavaScript code outside of a web browser. We're mostly interested in the Node package manager that comes with it. Let's download the latest version of Node.js. Open it when the download is complete. Select Next. Read the license agreement. Yes, I did read it that fast. Next. Select a destination folder. I'll keep it as is. You can define a custom setup, but that's outside of the scope of this tutorial series. We'll press Next. We'll skip Tools for Native Modules, press Next, and Install. Then Finish. You'll also need a text editor. I recommend VS Code, which you can get from this site, code.visualstudio.com, and select the correct download for your operating system. Within VS Code, I'm going to create a project folder. Let's go to Explorer, Open Folder. Just for convenience, I'll place my project folder on my desktop. I'll create a new folder. I'll name mine Website. Then we will select this folder. We're going to need to open up Command Prompt if you're using Windows or a terminal if you're on Mac. You can also do this within VS Code. Go to the hamburger menu up top, Terminal, New Terminal. Where within our website folder, we will type the command npm, meaning Node Package Manager, create vite at latest, meaning latest version. Vite's a development server. It's a modern replacement to Create React App, which is now outdated. Hit Enter. We'll need a name for this project. A common naming convention for a user's first React project is My React App. That's a common name that you'll see. Enter. Select a framework. Using the arrow keys, we can select whatever framework we would like to use. We will select React, hit Enter. Are we going to use TypeScript or JavaScript? We'll stick with plain JavaScript. Alright, so our web server is found at this address. Let's copy it, then open up a web browser. Let's paste that address. And here we are within our development server. This is a sample project that's given to us. It even includes this little counter. Hey, this is Future Bro. I was editing this video and I totally forgot to mention how you can restart the server if you close out of it. All you gotta do is open up a terminal. Let's go to Terminal, New Terminal. We have to be sure that we're within our application folder. I'm going to change my directory by typing cd, the name of the folder, My React App, then npm run dev to start the development server. And let's refresh that. Yep, it seems like it's working. So yes, I forgot to mention that. That is all. I'm quickly going to cover the project structure of our React application. We'll begin with the Node Modules folder. This folder contains external libraries and packages that our project relies on, a few of which are build tools, utility libraries, routing libraries, just to name a few. We won't be spending any time directly in this folder, but you should still be aware what it's for. It just contains external libraries and packages that our project relies on. Next, we have the public folder. The public folder contains any public assets, one of which in here is a Vite image. It should be this image right here. This folder can contain public fonts, images, videos. They're not bundled during the final output. They're typically available via a URL. Then we have the source folder. We'll spend 99% of our time within the source folder. We have an assets folder that can contain images and videos. The assets folder is very similar to the public folder, but files within the assets folder are bundled during the final output. Public assets are not, and they're generally available via a URL. My React image is within the assets folder currently. We have a main.jsx file. Remember that JSX is JavaScript XML. In a way, this functions as our main JavaScript file. React works with components. We're adding a single component, an app component, which we are importing. So let's take a look at our app component. The app component in this example, you could say, is the root component. We have two different style sheets, a style sheet for app, and we have an index.css style sheet. This is the main CSS file for our application. We're importing this file from our main.jsx file right here. So that's the source folder. Then we have an index.html file. This is the main entry point into our program. Within the body of our document, we have a development with an ID of root, as well as a script to our main.jsx file. A few other things you should know about is this package JSON file. JSON files are structured in key value pairs. This file contains metadata about our project, such as the project name, the version number, what build we're using Vite, and the React version number, just to name a few. Alright everybody, so in just a moment we will be creating our first React component. We already do have one component, that is app. Right now, this is serving as a sample project for us. Then we are importing app to main.jsx. This is our main.jsx file. Think of it as the main JavaScript file. We are creating a root element and including our app component. Within our app component, we do have a function. Delete everything within this function. That should eliminate our sample project. And we no longer need these imports. We can delete them too. But you do want to keep this export statement. Components can have dedicated style sheets, which you can see here for app CSS. We are going to delete this because we no longer need it. We do have an app component that's going to serve as the root. We will add other components to our app component. Our app component ties them all together. To create a new component, go to your source folder. We're going to right-click, then go to New File. We will create a component for a header. The extension is JSX because it's a JavaScript XML file. We will be working with function-based components. We will create a function with the name of header. Do pay attention to the capitalization. Then we would like to export this component so we can import it elsewhere. At the end of this file, type export default, the name of the component, header. Within our header function, we can write a combination of JavaScript and HTML. All we're going to do within this function is return something. Return, parentheses, semicolon. Within the return statement, you can write pure HTML. I will create a header element. So React components, they're only capable of returning a single element, but you can place children elements within. Within our header element, I will create an h1 element with text of my website. Just to be sure everything is working, let's save. I'm holding Control S on Windows. We will go to our app component, then import the header component. So within app, we will type the statement. Import the name of the component, header, from a location. That location is going to be ./header.jsx. We can now use this header component. Within our app component, we will also be returning something. So we will need a return statement, return parentheses semicolon. What are we going to return? I would like to use my header component. So to add a component, we need a set of angle brackets. Then type the name of the component, header. Like this. They're a pair of two. And the second one is closed. That's why we have a / preceding it. We now have a header component. You can shorten the syntax as well. Take your component, end it with a /. That also works too. It's a shorthand way of writing the same thing. Let's head back to our header component. We'll add a few more elements. After our h1 element, let's create a navigation element. Then within the navigation element, we'll create an unordered list. Within the unordered list, we'll create a few list items. The first will be home. These are list items you would typically see for a navigation bar. Home, about, services, and contact. We now have our unordered list. I'll enclose our list items within anchor tags to make them hyperlinks. href equals. I don't want these to go anywhere. I'm just going to leave these empty. I'll add a £, and then be sure to close these anchor tags. We'll place our text within the anchor tag so they are now hyperlinks. Okay, let's do that for the other list items. There we are. Then after my navigation element, I will add a horizontal rule to make it look nice. Okay, there is our header component. We no longer need to work with this header component. We do have some styling already applied. Those styles can be found within index.css. If you would like to start fresh and eliminate all of these styles, you can delete everything from here. Then you do have HTML with no CSS. In a future video, I'll show you various ways in which we can apply CSS to a React component, but for now we'll just keep this the same. Our header element is now complete. We will create a new element for a footer. Again, go to our source folder, right-click, go to New File, footer.jsx. We are creating a function-based component. It's a function that's going to return a footer component. Then at the end of our script, we will export default, the name of the component, footer, so that we can import it elsewhere. Our footer is going to return something, so we need a return statement. Then within the set of parentheses, we can return a single element. We will return a footer element. But remember, you can place children elements within an element. It still only counts as one then. So what do we want to do for our footer? I'll include a paragraph element. Within the paragraph element, I'm going to add a copyright symbol, to add a copyright mark, type &, copy, semicolon. Then afterwards, I'll add your website name. Alright, now we need to import this footer. Going back to our app component, we will import footer from footer.jsx. Then I would like to include a footer component after the header. Now pay attention to this. We're returning two components. We have this warning. We only have the capability of returning a single component. That's how our return statements are designed. JSX elements must be wrapped in an enclosing tag. It's just an empty set of angle brackets. So we will enclose all components within a fragment. And that should work. We have our footer component following our header component. We have our header and our footer. Let's make a few more changes to our footer. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Within our return statement, we can insert some JavaScript. To insert some JavaScript, you need a set of curly braces. I will create a new date object. This is some JavaScript code. New, date, parentheses. I would just like the year. I will follow this object with get full year method. Let's save and take a look. Your web application should return the current year whenever you're watching this. Alright, our footer component is now done. I'm going to create a component for an unordered list to sandwich between our header and our footer. I'll create a component for food. We will go to our source folder, create a new file. This component will be food.jsx. Again, we are creating a function-based component with the name of food. Then we will export this component when we're done. Export default food. Be sure to add a return statement. Before we add anything to the return statement, I will create some JavaScript variables. So normally, if you're adding JavaScript code within the return statement, you need a set of curly braces, but outside of the return statement, you don't. I will create two JavaScript constants. Const food1. Pick some food. For me, I will pick an orange. Alright, then let's create a second food variable. Food2, for me, will be a banana. Within the return statement, we can utilize these constants. What do we want to return exactly? I will return an unordered list. We'll have a few list items. 3 to be exact. My first list item, I'll just add some text. I'll add an apple. Just to be sure that everything is working, let's import this food component from our app component. Again, we need an import statement. Import food from food.jsx. We can now use the food component. We will add that after the header. We will add food. There is our first list item, an apple. Okay, let's head back to our food component. For our second list item, I will add food1. That's our constant. Now pay attention to this if I type food1. Well, we're literally printing the text food1. Since we're within our return statement, I would like to include some JavaScript code. We're including a JavaScript variable. So I need to enclose this variable within a set of curly braces because we're within the return statement. And now my second list item is an orange. Then let's include food2. But I'm going to add one more thing. Food2. However, I'm going to use the built-in to uppercase method just to demonstrate that we can use JavaScript functions. Alright, and there is our unordered list. We have an apple, orange, and a banana. So these components are now complete. And the cool thing about React as well is that we can keep on reusing these components if we would like. I would like a couple food components, so I will just paste another component. We now have 2 food components, or even 3, or 4. You can rearrange these components however you would like. By rearranging them, we can change the feel and style of our web application. For demonstration purposes, I will put our footer on the top. That doesn't make any sense, but I just want to demonstrate. So our footer is now on the top, followed by the header, then the food component. Or maybe I would like the food component on top. We now have our food component, footer component, then our header component. Alright everybody, that is an introduction to React. React is all about reusing components. A component is a small section of code that can include JavaScript and HTML. Your function will return that code and make it reusable. And that is your introduction to React.